online, on the TuneIn app, and on your smart speaker. Play Shock Radio.
This is Shock
News.
Welcome back to the Shock News podcast, here with me, Noah Buckingham-Reed, and I'm joined today with Freddie Beckett. How are you?
I'm great, Noah. I've had a great day.
Good. I'm glad. It's not been too bad, and we've got lots to cover today.
We do.
Lots of stories from the week, both local, which we're going to cover first. We're going to do a bit of national stories, and some big international news which came out overnight as well.
Exactly.
So, yeah, excited to get into it. First of all, though, we're going to go to Trafford Centre.
Okay.
So Trafford Centre, obviously one of the top spaces within Manchester, one of the top sort of tourist hotspots as well that people like to go to. And they're looking at £100 million investment and using it in a really strong way. They've put in a planning application reducing vacant shop units on the floor and maximising more than £100 million of investment in the Trafford Centre over the last 5 years. So that's been submitted. Do you think this could make an impact on the Trafford Centre? How do you think it could maybe push a bit of growth? You know, it could do maybe some updating when you go there.
I think so. I mean, the Trafford Centre itself is manic. Whenever you go, there's thousands of people. You feel crammed in. So maybe this extra investment, it could be good to, just make an experience a bit less crammed.
I think when you go there, it's so busy. Every time there's usually lots of concentrated bits of the Trafford Centre, so there's people hemmed in different areas. Maybe with this investment, it could be spread out a bit more. Some new shops, some new sort of front-facing bits, and draw some people in, and also be able to spread out people around that area. So senior figures at the iconic shopping centre said it is in a period of evolution unparalleled in its history. What do you think that means? Do you think they're looking at doing something quite seismic in changing it?
Yeah, the way that's worded, it makes it sound like they're really planning to do something quite big here. So I'm excited to see what happens.
I think it could be massive. I think £100 million putting it somewhere like that, if they can use it, take that investment and put it into something like majorly changing for the area, I think it could massively change the experience. I mean, there's a lot of things around the Trafford Centre as well, so it could be investment in maybe even more parking, that sort of thing.
Yes.
And then also in bringing it here. So the changes made to the centre to get reduced, large vacant units have been done. So this included the relocation of M&S to the former Debenhams store,
Yep.
and the backfilling of the former M&S store with the new flagship Interdex stores.
Okay.
So we know the Trafford Centre.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a little bit of a shift around, a move around, and filling up some sort of vacant units. With this changes, do you think this could open up a space for maybe a big landing? I mean, what is missing from there that could go in there?
The only thing I could say that's missing is a bigger car park. I feel whenever I go, there are just cars queuing and queuing and queuing. So I get the trams in, but
Well, I think that's without a lack of parking, and a lot of people drive to somewhere like Trafford Centre, as much as very well connected. And there's been a push to actually making sure that Trafford Centre's very well connected. So maybe if you were that person in those shoes, that would be the spot you'd look at. I think that'd be the spot you'd look at. And also in terms of the Trafford Centre, just more generally, we were talking maybe about how it might need some modernisation.
yeah.
Do you think that's really something they need to focus on?
It's made to look quite. Oh, it's got.
Well, it's made to look quite like grand.
It's
and
very grand.
Yeah.
It feels very like upmarket for how it is. So it's a difficult one because as it looks right now, I think it looks really good.
And sort of getting to that level and the same level of all of the shops and all of that area, keeping it to that standard.
Exactly.
Maybe that's where a lot of the investment goes, just in sort of like small refurbishments and just keeping up the look.
Yeah.
It's got a grand look. And comparing it to Arndale, like we have in the city centre, it's still packed out, but we are seeing some shopping centres which are getting less traction with the rise of online shopping, with the sort of push away from the high streets. Do you think maybe there's a slight concern, a sort of like preemptive concern, that there's a smaller market and that needs to be looked at and have a push in bringing people back out to the shopping centres?
I think it's definitely an issue with the online shopping. As well as that, in the Trafford Centre, they've got the massive Odeon cinemas there as well. Loads of screens, and obviously theatre. People going to the theatre, the numbers are really declining. So that's a lot of space that takes up.
So you think maybe the cinemas could go?
Not go completely, but maybe they have to look at their numbers.
I think that is the premise of it, looking at their numbers and putting in something where they need to go, that this is what we need to change, this is what's making money, this is what's not. And we've seen that with, when they said that the Debenhams store was going, and the M&S, the relocation, and everything, I think it just change in sort of approach to shopping centres. So when was the last time you went to a shopping centre in that sort of quite traditional way of going out for the day?
I went to Trafford Centre. Trafford Centre is probably the most recent one because I went to cinema to see something on my own, but it was quite fun. Anyway, so
It's
that's
got grand theatres.
Yeah, it was
sort of
just
the experience.
it was fun. I enjoyed it.
And there is an experience economy that's growing, and I think a lot of people are now looking at a day out as something they want to have as an experience of. So I think cinemas could really buy into that if they wanted to. But yes, so there's a planning application that's gone in for this new £100 million investment to be put into sort of new shop fronts and making sure that some of the ones which have been left vacant will now be taken up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be some major changes coming. But let's go on because we've got some other big news, some other news which has come out of Salford this week.
Yes.
And you might have seen it on social media. You might have seen it on your phones while you're scrolling, especially if you're in the Salford area. And you might have read on some of our Salford outlets that last week there was footage of a young boy which was circulating as he attached himself to a number 10 bus in Salford. We've seen, I think we were discussing this before we came on air, that sometimes you see this. Like young people around, even up here, like around campus at the buses, which so many people use. I mean, is this a concern?
I mean, I definitely seen it before. I was at the Salford Shopping Centre waiting for the 50 bus in first year after my big Tesco shop. Other supermarkets are available, of course. And you just see a few children like grab onto the back of the buses and drive off, and you think, what are they doing that for? But then you've also got to think there must be a reason they're doing that for.
There must be, and we know that this footage is circulated, and it found out that the boy was hanging onto the bus for almost 10 minutes from Cromwell Road until he dismounted on Lower Broughton Road. So this has been like 10 minutes on the back of a bus, and it wasn't sort of picked up. If this ends up becoming, something where there's injuries involved, I think the council will look at it then, and should they be looking at doing something more now to address it?
I don't know what you can do to address it in that sense. Bus fares obviously is a massive talking point of the whole of the UK, and the B Network's done a great job of keeping bus fares down as low as possible. Andy Burnham's been a great man to do that, but it's difficult with young children hanging onto the back of the bus. No one wants to see that at all.
Well, no one wants to, because it's potentially dangerous,
Exactly.
potentially unsettling for customers, unsettling for bus drivers. I mean, you must think maybe there could be a step up in police presence, but again, nobody really wants that on the public transport either. So we know that there was some speculation, people commented on this video, that maybe the reason people, and young people especially, were taking these tactics, putting themselves in danger, is because they were trying to dodge the fare and trying to, dodge paying money, just trying to get a free ride. Is there a problem that people can't afford the buses anymore, and this is potentially putting people into danger?
You've got to think that. You've got to think it's a reason for. Obviously, they could just be trying to keep some of their pocket money and save it for the future. But you've got to look. I mean, if you've got to go on a bus every day, that adds up.
It does add up. I mean, it's a lot of money that goes into it. I mean, we pay money to go into town, for example, and every journey is going to cost you £2 to go there and to get back, and suddenly you're making 2 journeys a day, and you're £8 deep in just bus fares.
It's the same with the trams as well. I mean, you never really know what
you
you're
don't know.
paying.
No, you're not. You're paying.
You don't know what you're paying on the trams. So you tap on Media City, for example, and you go to the Etihad Stadium on the whole line, and you don't know how much that's cost you.
And just on the point of fares, if you were to ask B Network, I think they'd say their fares are actually quite fair in terms of the wider country.
I think so.
We saw legislation come in which made the national standard about £3 for a bus journey. Andy Burnham promised when that came into action that the B Network would keep its cap at £2. So do you think they're doing enough to address the fact that people can't afford the buses, can't afford things anymore?
I think the B Network is one of the most competitive prices across the country. I mean, the national standard's £3, and the B Network's kept it at £2. A whole pound cheaper. That's going a long way.
But do you think that maybe that's still not enough? Could they do more? Could there be subsidies? Could there be? We saw there's some young people travel cards coming out. Could there just be more focus on young people by the B Network, by the council, by Greater Manchester Council, and by the mayor?
I think there could be more done, but you've got to argue that they are already doing quite a lot to help everyone as much as possible.
So we did hear from a Transport for Greater Manchester spokesperson on this issue. They responded that this is incredibly dangerous behaviour, which could have catastrophic consequences. So, like we mentioned, potentially the risk. And it's also a criminal offence. We'd urge all parents and guardians to speak to their children about the dangers of this kind of behaviour. Not only are these young people taking their own lives into their hands, but they will also face very real consequences if they're caught. Is that enough to dissuade people?
A statement like that's not enough to dissuade anyone, I don't think. If they have it in their mind that that's what they're going to do, I feel like that's what
it puts the burden on parents quite a lot. I think, there's only so much which you can push on parents to push back on the behaviour. Often around Salford Shopping City, like you mentioned, you'll see young people hanging around.
Yeah.
Sort of pushing that down, trying to suppress young people from hanging out together, having that third space, which we've talked about, and actually the council has spoken about the importance of young people having places to be and hang out. I mean, putting the burden on parents feels like there's a little stretch for me, and I feel like they could possibly do more to introduce maybe young people's tickets. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I think I paid, you could say I want a child ticket, and you pay about 50p for any sort of journey. Now with the tap on tap off system, it's usually quite a base rate.
Quite a base rate, and because
I mean, what can you do about it?
Yeah, you just tap on, and the bus driver, you just tap on. It's not like you say to the bus driver, here's my cash, I'll pay for this rate. It's just tap on, and that's it. That's all you get. So there's definitely things that could be changed. But
well, we'll see going forward. We've heard about some strikes, and there's many sort of issues around the Salford area with the B network, with the buses, and we will keep you updated on that story. But let's go on to one of our reporters here at Shock News, Benny Fidamore, who wrote a story this week informing us about the train station stabbing at Piccadilly train station, which came as quite a shock. And when it came in, it seemed a story which was worth addressing on the show. So just on the details of that story, there was a 13-year-old boy who was reported stabbed near a car park for Piccadilly Station.
yeah,
Another 13-year-old boy was then arrested on suspicion of wounding with intent, while 3 other boys, one aged 13 and 2 aged 12, were also arrested on suspicion of affray. Affray is a public order offence where a person uses or threatens unlawful violence towards another person. A shocking story. We've seen sort of spikes and troughs of knife crime and violence in the city. Seeing violence in this young people is majorly concerning.
very concerning, especially for the demographic. It takes you back to what we were talking about, young people having a place for them to go as well. But it's concerning to see 13-year-old and 12-year-old children attacking people with knives near a train station.
It's almost like we said about that balance between not wanting to be too overbearing or putting it on parents to be sort of overbearing or trying to control different areas. But also I think there should be a real drive in giving young people places to be, guidance, support. And this is an example of something really sort of tragic which has come out of that. As we know, since the victim has been since discharged from hospital, the injuries have been described as non-life-threatening or life-changing. So it's a good result on this occasion, but it's another one in a number, and we could potentially see it happen again, and it could have a worse outcome. I think it's very concerning for parents, very concerning for people. And it always comes back to the question, what could be done more to make sure this doesn't happen?
Yeah, and it's the same argument all the time. What can be done? What more can be done? But I mean, it just goes back to the young people, and they just need that extra space, that extra guidance, because there's at 13 years old, 12 years old, they don't have that full development to really. Obviously, they might understand what's going on, but they're not fully aware of the consequences of their actions, such as that way.
And we can confirm that Benny Fidamore, who reports on this, said that all of the children, the 4 which were arrested, have all been released on bail, pending further inquiries. So we'll hopefully be able to update a bit more on that when we can, and get into that a little bit more. But the Detective Inspector, Stephen Kite, has asked anyone with information to come forward. He said, "We've spoken to a number of witnesses, but we believe there may be other people who saw what happened and are yet to come forward." He added that we also believe that there were people who had been driving past who may have captured important dashcam footage showing what happened. I urge these people to make contact with us as soon as possible. I think we can just all hope, looking at that, that can be resolved, and then it can also be addressed as a wider issue of knife crime in the city and of young people actually more generally. And we can just make an appeal and repeat their appeal that any witnesses or those with information are urged to contact the British Transport Police by texting 61016 or by calling 0800 40 50 40 using the reference 254 of 28th of October. And information can be given anonymously to Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Yeah, again, tragic story. Luckily, nobody's come out of it on the rough side this time. But yeah, we just hopefully, like we've addressed with these last two stories, young people. But on a slightly lighter note,
exactly,
it is bonfire night today.
The 5th of November
we're having a celebratory, or we're having a cup of tea on the 5th of November. And I'm sure if you're around the Salford area or the Manchester area, it's probably felt like bonfire night for the last 2 weeks or so, with the amount of fireworks you've been hearing. If you heard it from me, you live near a park, you want to see you live near anywhere around here, you'll hear it. But yeah, it is finally bonfire night, so we're going to give permission to the fireworks setters off of Salford. One night, you get one night only. One night, we'll give them the freedom of the city.
Maybe not.
To set some to do some fireworks, and there's going to be set to be some bonfires, I think, all across the city.
Over the other side of Peel Park, I've seen a massive
It's
bonfire.
crazy. I remember my first time last year looking across that bridge. Massive fire.
I saw it being set up a few weeks ago. It looks going to be wild. It's going to be a wild night tonight, I can guarantee.
But it has actually been a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of Salford people will connect with this. There's been many complaints that the fireworks are very disruptive for animals, and something that people might not think about when they're doing their massive firework display for their birthday or for New Year's or for bonfire night, like we're on today. And that it might affect their animals and put them in a permanent mood of stress. I think some people have reported that fireworks going off next door has resulted in their animals having to almost like have a stress, nervous breakdown, which lasts hours and hours after it's finished. And I think many pet owners are scared when it comes to nights like these that the animal could be under severe stress for multiple hours throughout the next day. I mean, if you ever have any experience with this or any...
Pet-wise, I don't think, living in a quiet rural village, I haven't had the stress of living in a bustling Manchester city, but every night I could feel there's fireworks. I mean, I came back from home yesterday, stepped off the train, within seconds I was hearing fireworks. I mean, it felt like I was on the beaches of Normandy, I felt under fire.
I felt under fire
from the amount of fireworks that were going off.
So you might agree with this then, this sentiment which has been put forward by a Labour MP in the Commons in the past week, that they wanted to propose that fireworks should only be set off on weekends to reduce disruption, including to animals and also to people living in an area with high quantities of fireworks going off, like around here. What do you make of that? Reasonable? Too far?
It's a reasonable request. However, I can't see how you can police that. Everyone at some point has something to celebrate, and they might use fireworks, and there's nothing you can really do about that.
It's true. I mean, I'm not sure how on earth you'd begin policing that. We've already got a massively strained police force as it is. You can imagine on a night like bonfire night where you're going to have police on the job going from house to house trying to look for fireworks. But the MP, she previously presented a petition to Parliament calling for quieter fireworks. So just changing the type of sale, which she described as keeping the whoosh but getting rid of the bang. What do you make of that? Having the firework go up and not I mean,
the whole
what does
point
it do?
of
Bang
firework,
yeah.
it's the bang, it's the colourful.
It's the big moment.
It's the big pop, but you can't not have that, and I don't know how you would not have that, because it would just ruin the firework.
I wonder if that might be a better way of policing it. If they really wanted to push this through, that the way to regulate it would be actually to change the type of fireworks which went on sale.
That's the only way you could do it, but then people would still find a way around it.
So you don't think it's viable?
I don't think that kind of request is a viable option in today's world.
So it was presented, and she did ask the question: would the Leader of the House consider a debate on designating a specific weekend as bonfire night to reduce the disruption? Considering she pointed out the fact that this year it falls on a Wednesday, so not particularly convenient day if you are having to get up for work in the morning and you live right next door to, or your pet's under stress for multiple hours on that eve of just trying to get to work the next day. So do you think maybe the sort of very much traditional day of the 5th of November for bonfire night, could it be moved around?
I can't see that happen. I mean, it's the same day every year. You know what day it is. You know when it is. You, in theory,
Make
have
exceptions.
you can make exceptions for the celebration of the failure of Guy Fawkes to blow up the Houses of Parliament.
So what the government's response was, and we'll just pick out the government response before we move on, is that the government said that they are acutely aware, particularly at this time of year, of concerns, not least around animal welfare. So they encouraged Alex Mayer to seek a debate, either an adjournment debate or a backbench business debate, so that she can raise those concerns and can ensure that legislation on fireworks is kept up to date. Doesn't sound particularly promising for her grand vision to ban fireworks.
Sidelined her off.
I think they've gone, look, just go through the system, go through the system. So we can't expect much on it, but very interesting to hear on bonfire night, because you get the same sort of complaints every year.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear someone so outspoken on the matter, because it's a big matter.
It's a big matter.
Everyone notices it.
Everyone mentions it, and it's probably the first time I think major legislation has been proposed on it. But we're going to sort of go to a big international story now, across the pond in America. So last night was their big election day across the country, in multiple places across the country, with mayoral elections, gubernatorial elections in Virginia and New Jersey, and a big Prop 50 vote in California, which was a redistricting debate. It's been a massive, though, win in New York City, and for Democrats actually across America, the left-leaning party in America, the Democratic Party, in a big anti-Trump sentiment. Sort of his first major challenge internally from the Democrats since his inauguration at the start of the year. We know that mayor-elect now, Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate in New York City for mayor, won that election on a very much democratic socialist level, a much left-wing side of the Democratic Party. What do you think that indicates?
It's a sign of the times, definitely. Democrats really swept the US last night. Across all the states, from California to New York, they were really winning. But yeah, it's a sign.
All of their big talking points, debates won.
Yeah,
it's going to be a massive, like I said, like a challenge for Trump. How much of a challenge?
It showed the public's opinion on Trump's first proper.
See, many were calling it like a referendum on Trump. I think it's
sort
of a verdict.
It's a very public opinion poll on the Trump.
I think that's almost the best way to frame it. The best way to frame it is that this is sort of an indicator of where this Trump government sits in the wider US. It's easy to look at polling and say he's got a 60+% disapproval rate, and he's not doing well. But it's very difficult to actually conceive of that until you see this governor has gone blue, this state has gone blue. This state, I mean, we're looking at the Virginia debate, which was won by Abigail Spanberger, and Kamala Harris won in that state last year, but by about 51%. Abigail Spanberger got about 5 points ahead of that, about 56%. It already looks like the state as a whole is swinging towards blue and swinging in a much more fervent way than they did for Kamala Harris last year. That was a centre-left candidate. It wasn't a similar sort of democratic socialist. Do you think that maybe this could push Trump into opening his eyes to what the Democrats have to do and give them some more influence across the country?
Well, I feel it's very difficult to open Trump's eyes. I feel like he walks around with like a curtain over the top. He doesn't. He's very vocal on his opinions. Whether you can change his opinions on any matter, it's not sure. But it's mainly like this morning on Truth Social, after the announcement was made, after Trump was saying how he'd cut funding to New York if Mamdani won the election, he was straight on Truth Social stating how it will begin now. And it's really worrying, where the New York cost of living is one of the highest in the world. I mean, it's a massive issue.
Are you concerned that maybe the success of this challenge to Trump now relies on the Democrats, who have now been elected, delivering on their promises?
Yeah, I think they've all got to stand by each other now, because where the Trump administration is quite...
They're fierce.
They're
very hard line.
It's very...
And they could almost do anything, and their supporters will sort of support their direction of travel. If that direction of travel means cutting funding almost to an absolute minimum on New York, that can support it, and it might make it really tough
and
for
where the Republicans hold all three pillars of American politics, it's very difficult now for the Democrats to really get a hold of US politics. But the blue line now could be on the up again now.
So Mamdani, obviously elected on the left of the Democratic Party, looking at who could potentially be the presidential candidate for 2028. Does it perhaps suggest a sign that maybe they could look towards a left-wing candidate?
I feel like you've got to have a very different person to Trump, almost, yes, on the opposite spectrum to him, but you got to go with the opinions. And
I think it just shows it's like a sign of the times in a way.
It really is.
Of where America stands on that, on where America stands on the values of democratic socialists. He's been sort of like bombarded with content that Mamdani's a communist, he's going to destroy New York City, this is the downfall of the biggest financial capital in the world. And now it's a chance to sort of take that and prove that maybe this is something different. This is not what it is. This is like a successful way of governing. It's going to really sort of depend on how successful they can govern over the next couple of years.
Some Republican congressmen and things, they've been very openly critical of Mamdani, verging on more racist backgrounds to it. And I know Mamdani can't, in theory, run for president because of where he wasn't born a US citizen, unlike other people. But being a New York City mayor, that is a massive step in US politics. And to do that when this time last year he was only 1% in the polls, and now he's won it. I mean, that really shows where it's heading.
And just drawing us back to the UK before we wrap up, almost similarly on a very low polling last year and early this year was the Green Party under their joint leadership. They're running on a very similar basis as Zoran Mamdani in New York City, based on affordability, cost of living crisis, a refocusing of the Green Party on economics. Zach Polansky has surged in the polls like Mamdani did.
And
is this a sign for left-wing leaning candidates across the world?
And just like Mamdani, I think it shows a massive how big social media is. Mamdani was massive on social media, as is Polansky. They're really getting the young voters on their side, and we could be seeing a big surge in the polls.
I mean, electorally, we've seen that now it can be successful. Those policies will be heavily scrutinised and tested, and as it might actually reflect on the Green Party's policies, which are very similar in a way and run on very similar sort of values and like just moral base. I think it's going to be such an interesting test over the next few years. And Zach Polansky, of Salford born, can we reference, will be leading that Green Party, and it'll just be so intriguing to see how they pan out over the next few years. Absolutely. Okay, I think that's all we've got time for, so we'll wrap up with that. Thank you for joining me today, Freddie.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week on the Shock News podcast, and it's been a good one.
I think it's been good. I'm even getting the branding.
We'll cheers to that. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.